lot of opportunities in that game for us, not taking anything away from Minnesota. They definitely executed much better than us. But one thing that definitely showed through was our guys' effort on the field. I thought was outstanding for the duration of the game. It came down to lack of execution, and then our mistakes became critical errors. You know, we always talk about winning the ball, and when you're down -2 in that area, that significantly reduces your opportunities to win games. But then just some of the mistakes that we made just led to both big-time plays on both sides of the ball, and so that's going to be the emphasis, is just cleaning up some of the communication errors and making sure guys are doing their responsibility, whatever that may be, because there was plenty of things that on both sides that we've seen throughout the course of the off season. It wasn't like there was these new plays, in either of those phases that came up. It was just, I don't want to call them routine plays either, but there were plays that, for whatever reason, the communication was off and the execution was off, and then we got guys covering for another guy, and then that's how bad things happen.
You mentioned the communication. Aaron said that there was guys up front blocking the wrong guys on some plays. You saw the miscommunication in your zone, secondary coverage. I'm not asking about preseason because I get it. You want to keep your guys' bodies fresh, but is that not doing the preseason? Is that kind of this opener is going to be? You want to see some of that miscommunication in this setting because you don't have that chance, and how do you get that fixed?
Yeah, I don't know. I think every team's a little bit different. I think Minnesota didn't play their guys in the preseason, so obviously it didn't hurt them. So maybe we're doing something wrong in practice, whatever it may be. But certainly it's disappointing. I thought that our guys were locked in, ready to go. Like I said, I thought the effort was outstanding. It's just disappointing when you have a veteran group at certain spots and you do have those miscommunications or just guys not playing their responsibilities. So that's going to be a point of emphasis, and we'll make sure we get that corrected. And we have to get it corrected in an urgent manner and get ready to play Chicago.
Okay. I realize that you guys spent hours and hours and hours game planning. I'm just curious when one of your premier players, like Jair, says, I really want to cover this guy. And you guys know best, you can't listen to every player. But how do you handle that, on a case-by-case basis? When should we do that? Should we not do it? Kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, if you want to change the structure of your defense, I mean, you could certainly do that. I think if you watch the game, there were many times throughout the course of that game where it wasn't just a single motion, it was a double motion, right? So now you're talking about trailing a guy, whatever it may be, but you would have to commit to man coverage. I don't know how else you get it done. And I think situationally, I think it can be done, but it's more than just, if a guy goes in motion, it's more than just one guy covering that guy. Now you're talking about 10 other guys changing their responsibilities, possibly, if you're in a zoning defense, which you don't really see that. I think they did a great job game planning, and moving Jefferson around, and they put him in some opportune spots, and there were certain coverages where they're going to have the advantage on, and I think it's very similar to how we used Devontae a year ago. And when you have a premier player like that has the versatility and the routability to run many different routes, that's a huge advantage for an offense. And then, not to mention, you got to worry about Thielen and then Dalvin Cook. And I'm not trying to make excuses. That's not what I'm trying to do. But that's just the facts. And bottom line, who's ever on them, we gotta perform better. And certainly, I do agree that there are certain situations that you could do that, and I think you saw that in the game. There was one late in the game where they ran a drive concept. We were in two-man. Jair took Jefferson It was the one where Keyshawn Nixon made the play on the shallow cross that led to a 4th down stop, so or 3rd down stop where they punted. But yeah, situationally, I think it's much easier to do. I think it's hard to do that throughout the course of the game unless you are committed to playing man coverage every snap.
Along those lines, and I guess maybe you've sort of answered, maybe, is it something that you could do on 3rd down? So I think Jefferson had 2 of his 20-yarders and the touchdown were either 3rd or 4th down. So is that maybe an option?
Yeah, potentially, absolutely. I think that's something that we'll talk about it each and every week, and every week's a little bit different. But we have a lot of confidence in our other corners out there too, whether it's Stokes or Rasul Douglas. So it's how exotic you want to be and exactly what you want to do.
And Matt, you're the king of the buck stops here. Every time you guys lose, you say the same thing. You always say it starts with me, and I respect that. So, what did you not do well enough yesterday? Because you had all kinds of prep time, and you had all these different ideas. You have a shot play in the first play that if Christian makes the catch, we're probably having a different conversation about the way the game went. Like, did you really think you did that? Like,
Yeah, I did. I think any time that, especially, I'll put the offensive coordinator hat on for a second. When 2 of your best players are your running backs, and they have, I think it was 18 touches total, that's not good enough. So, was it 18 or was it more than that? 23? Well, regardless, we need to get them the ball more, especially in the run game. I thought we were running the ball pretty efficiently. We had a couple of explosive runs. I thought our backs were I really loved how they competed. I mean, they were fighting for every inch out there. And shoot, even when you see on that explosive pass to Bobby Tunyon, you can watch Aaron Jones on the fly motion, how he regathers and, he's blocking downfield. So I love the energy and the effort they bring, and certainly want to get them more involved in our offense and, quite frankly, take a little bit of pressure off everybody else. I think when you are committed to the run game, the Vikings had a good plan to rush our quarterback, and they were getting some pretty good push when we did throw the football. And so that kind of takes a little bit of the stress off our offensive line as well.
Can you do that when you run an offense, though, that has RPOs, that has canned plays where your quarterback has all kinds of freedom? Like, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing there were probably some plays that started out as runs that ended up as passes during the game too. That maybe.
Yeah, but that's always the case for us, and certainly we've got the utmost confidence in Aaron. Why wouldn't you? To make the right decisions, and he's been pretty good over our time. So we'll never sit here and second guess that. I think that's an element of our offense that makes it a little bit more difficult to defend. And bottom line is, we've got to put our players in better positions, and that always starts with me. And whether it's offense, defense, special teams, it doesn't matter. Just those conversations that I have with Rich or Joe Barry in regards to how we're going to handle certain situations and attack, and the communication's got to be better, starting with me.
You mentioned yesterday. Go ahead.
That was a situation inside backer with Krys and Quay.
Yeah, so obviously KB, it looked pretty significant. I think we avoided significant injury, so that was some good news today. And we'll give Quay the week, but we're hopeful that he'll be back ready to roll.
You mentioned yesterday how it was the second straight year you've had an opener where you guys just didn't show up or weren't prepared, didn't play your best. Does that make?
Yeah, I would say that we didn't play our best. That's how because I think our guys did show up. We just didn't execute. And all you got to do is look at just the end of the game, how our guys were still competing, and playing hard. And so that, to me, is encouraging. So we just got to, there's a lot we got to clean up, obviously. And it starts with how we go out there and practice, and just making sure that we're very deliberate with our practice and intentional. And, we got a lot of work in front of us.
Well, along those lines, does that make today feel a little bit like Monday of week 2 last year? Because you guys have been here before, and what do you take from that? Because you did it pretty well last year in terms of flushing that opener and moving on with your season. What do you take from that and implement now as you got to do the same thing?
Well, I think that's just life in the National Football League. If you live on what you did yesterday, whether you win or you lose, you're not going to get better. So we're always going to be very, very critical and hard on ourselves from a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, and try to make the necessary adjustments, try to make the necessary corrections, and try to avoid this in the future as best we can. But this league is a humbling league. All you got to do is look around the league at some of the scores, and I'm sure there was a few eye poppers that nobody expected. But that's this league, and you better be your best every opportunity that you get to go out on that field. Otherwise, you get stuck up here answering your guys' questions.
Well, you answer them if you win too.
Sure, but they're a lot different when you win.
Do you have an update on Keyshawn and Hanson?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have a clear cut as far as what their availability is going to be like, but you mean Runyon?
London, yes.
Okay, because you threw me off there. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, no, I have no updates right now. We'll have an injury report for you on Wednesday.
Speaking about Jake Hansen, what was the thought process of starting him maybe over a guy like Zach Tom?
Just Jake's had an outstanding camp, and we just thought he was one of the top 5 at the moment, and there was a lot of good things, and then there were some things that were not so good, and I think by and large that was pretty much how we played up front for the most part. I thought Josh Myers had a pretty solid game, but everybody else, there was some moments of good and some not so good.
You obviously want to get Jones the ball, but Aaron mentioned wanting to get Sammy more involved. You have a tight end who probably should get a couple targets, who hasn't played in a while. You want to get the rookies' feet wet. So how do you balance that, wanting to get, is it just you need more plays, or do you have to say, you know what, not screw those other guys, but forget it, we got to give the ball to 43 more?
That's a hell of a question. Because everybody has their own desires and wants, but the bottom line is you got to find a way to win the game. But that, I think that's something that we struggle with each and every week, because you'd like to get everybody involved, and certainly if you have more plays, it's a hell of a lot easier to do. But we got to put ourselves in better position to maximize on our opportunities. Like I mentioned, there was opportunities from an offensive standpoint to cash in. Certainly. First play of the game and not converting on a 4th down. We had another 4th down late in the game where we don't convert. So we just got to be better in those situations.
On punts, just watching live, looks like he almost had 3 of them blocked. I assume the Vikings maybe were trying to block those. I guess what'd you think of your protection there? Is it a concern?
Definitely way too leaky. Just guys got to, again, they've got to trust their teammate. They got to trust themselves and the techniques that we work since the day Rich got here. And I think you saw a little bit of that go away in the game. And I think sometimes that happens, in game situations. Is you truly got to be as present as possible and trust your technique, trust the way you've been trained. And you can't go rogue and deviate from that. And I think there was a little of that was going on, and that's why there were a couple of situations where there was way too much penetration. But all in all, I thought Pat did a hell of a job punting the football. I thought our coverage was on point. I thought for the most part our special teams did a nice job.
Aaron talked about mental mistakes a lot a couple times last night. I'm wondering, is there a way to maintain being the offense that you are and put younger guys in positions where they're less likely to make mental mistakes and still retain what you guys are offensively? I mean, I understand there's certain things that you have to be able to do and make calls on whether you're a first-year guy or a 10th-year guy. But are there ways that you can help them so they're in less positions to make mental errors, or not really?
Yeah, I think absolutely. The more carryover you have on a week-to-week basis, but also understand that the defense is probably practicing exactly what you've been doing. So, yeah, there's that fine line. And that's why we try to, throughout the course of training camp, the majority of the concepts that we feel that we're going to need during the season, we'd like to at least have got them repped a couple times so that we're not introducing a whole new offense on a week-to-week basis, because I've been a part of teams where it felt like a new offense every week. It's so game plan driven, and that's not what we want to be about. I don't believe in that philosophically. I just think for guys to go out there and play fast and be able to react, they got to have a very good foundation. And so, not to say that you can't, have some game plan plays, because we always do, or try to hide certain concepts or whatever you may be doing, whether it's formationally, whether it's by personnel groupings. You want to make it difficult on the defense and easier for your guys. So, those young guys, I think for the most part, and I think you're talking more about the wide receivers, there wasn't a ton of mistakes by the young guys. It's just, again, it comes down to execution.
You've got some new guys, but it's largely the same core that you had last year. Do you sense any difference with your guys this year? Any less panic than a year ago, having gone through what you're going through now with a poor opener and moving on from it?
Yeah, no, I think I'll have a better feel as we get through the week. Certainly, I think a lot of our veterans, I don't think this isn't their first rodeo, and this is not the first time they've suffered a defeat. But it's always interesting to see how young guys respond to a defeat or not playing your best. And so, you gotta be critical, but at the same time, you still gotta try to, put your arm around these guys, because you want them confident. I think when you see teams that go out there and can execute at a high level, obviously there's a level of skill that's demanded upon them, but also there's a level of confidence that's there that allows, because football is going to be imperfect, and we talk about it all the time, how it's an imperfect game, and you got to be resilient, and you got to be able to, whether you do good or bad on a play, you got to go into the next play and try to hit that reset button. So that's what we're going to do collectively as a team, and it's going to start with our preparation on Wednesday, and we got to have a great week of prep.
What did you think of Quay yesterday before he got hurt?
I thought there was a lot of good things. I think the first series was a little shaky for him, and that tends to be the case. And there's going to be some growing pains with all young players in this league. It's just the way it is. There's a lot of different things that they haven't seen before, and then to get in your first regular season game, there's going to be mistakes like we just talked about. It's never going to be perfect, but I loved how he responded. I loved how he was flying around. I thought he was physical, and I think he's got a bright future. And he's just got to keep continuing to learn, and there's no better learning tool than getting those game reps.